All right, moving on to white, we'll start with commons, then uncommons, then rares, and within each of those, we'll be sorting by mana value. So up first here, we have Blessed Defiance. Single white for an instant. Target creature you control gets +2/+0 and gains lifelink until end of turn. When that creature dies this turn, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying.
So kind of weird. Not really a combat trick. Sort of. We've seen sort of this before in the sense that it's like that card from Strixhaven that's like when it dies you make a 3/2. So it's like it helps you trade up, and then leaves you with a body. I think this one's actually a little bit better than the versions we've seen before because +2 is more than +1, which is usually what we see on these. And lifelink's big. It's just like a great ability. 1/1 flyer for the white aggro decks is also pretty good. Again, now we're in Coven land talking about the white cards where a 1/1 inherently has some value. So I don't think this is like a fantastic trick or anything, but I think you're going to be playing it.
Sure. So like C
minus. C minus. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nothing too special.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Next up, we have kind of an interesting one. Candle Trap. Single white mana for an aura. Enchanted creature has Defender. Prevent all common damage that would be dealt by enchanted creature, and then it says Coven, 3 mana. If you meet the Coven requirements, you can pay 3 mana, exile the enchanted creature.
And just to talk about the last card, a lot of people are saying, that the trick, you can like enable Coven mid-combat. Yeah, but most of the Coven stuff is like
trigger at the beginning of combat.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen a lot, but maybe it does. I don't know. I'm out on this card. Like, you'll play it sometimes or whatever, but this is not removal.
Right. I think we have, most people have come around on enchantment removal, pacifism's baseline. You should start as probably not that good. There's exceptions, of course. We've seen some exceptions in the past year or so, but I think, especially when white looks really aggressive in this set, it doesn't look to be controlling, which is where this kind of card would shine. I'm kind of out on it. So if there's like, blue-white might want this as like a 1 mana defensive thing. But other than that, I don't think I'm in for it. I'm going to give started a C minus.
Yeah, I am too. And we should run through a little bit. So why are pacifism bad, right? So there's bounce that exists. We haven't seen them yet in this set review, but we're going to see stuff that cares about creatures being on the battlefield. Doesn't remove activated abilities as well. There's, with the advent of best of one, we're getting a lot more main deck enchantment removal stuff, or like flexibility, like so ways that people can just blow these up anyway. And then tack this onto the fact that this also leaves back a blocker for your opponent. Now, yes, sure. So whatever if their toughness exceeds your creature's attack, they still get to block effectively or fend off that creature. Don't be fooled. This is not Dreadful Apathy with the exile effect. Oh yeah, sacrifice as well. Thank you, folks. And that's another reason that a card like this is bad. So yeah, I think C minus. I could even see this just being D plus. Like,
yeah, it is worth noting that to make a pacifism good, you want something to get it off the battlefield eventually, an ability that does that. And this does have that, but I'm still a little bit wary of it. So I think we're gonna start low.
Yeah, for sure. We've got Gavin Trapper, single white for an 0/2 human soldier, 2 tap target creature.
So it's a fan bearer if you've played Omnicat recently, and it's looks like a downgrade being a 0/2 instead of a 1/2. But again, that Coven benefit of having a 0 power creature in there for 1 mana, that means something. I think this card's pretty good.
Yeah, I do too. I think this is gonna be. You don't want to load up on these, obviously, right? Like
no.
They have diminishing returns, but I think the first copy might be. It's crazy to say C plus.
No, I would give it a C plus. So like in the flag bearer, not flag bearer, fan bearer, the advantage of that card was it had some zombie synergies and could attack someone another time. And this kind of plays the same thing where it's got the Coven synergies. So I think we are used to 2 mana tappers being bad, right? But when a lot of that cost is that they're not good bodies and you have to pay 2 or 3 mana. When it comes down on 1, it's a lot different actually. So I would give this a C plus here, and I'd be happy with 1 or 2 of them generally.
And this is also a if you're white red or white green and you've got werewolves, like this is a way to get them nightbound and then still use your mana. Like, yep. I think it's good.
And it's a really good way if they, there's not that many ways to deal with like a 7/7 werewolf, and this is one of the great ways. So. All right. Next up, we got Hedge Witch's Mask. Single white mana for an equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, and it says equipped creature can't be blocked by creatures of power 4 or greater, and the equip cost is 2. So.
Yeah.
Not
Short sword, eh?
Not quite short sword, no.
Well, look, Mr. One Mana Equipment. What do you think about this card?
So I think that it's probably not going to be that great because Coven in all the there's a lot of white things that enhance your creatures naturally. There's a lot of creatures that will enhance other creatures. Generally, you want to put these kind of cards in your deck when there's not a lot of those kind of things, right? You're devoting a card slot to saying all my smaller creatures will be able to get in a little bit better. But when all of the creature, or a lot of the creatures, I should say, do that naturally, this effect goes down in value. Now, the idea here, I imagine, is you have 2/2/2s. You put this on one of them. Now you have a 2/2 and a 3/3. So Coven, the whole Coven joke once again. But I still don't think it's great. So
that's not worth a card. This is like a D.
Yeah, agreed.
Next up, Homestead Courage. Single white for a sorcery. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains vigilance until end of turn. And it has flashback for a single white. Hello? What is this? This is like...
Travel...
Yeah, it's like weekend preparations.
Yeah, weekend preparations, yeah. Travel picnic or something.
Travel picnic, sure.
So it's kind of funny juxtaposing this in the last card we saw. So we were just talking about how it's not really worth it, for putting a card in your deck to boost by a little bit. But the fact that this is 1 mana for a permanent boost and flashback, the same thing, and vigilance, that matters too. I think this card's quite good. Chat's giving it kind of a low grade, but I think you're going to be surprised at how this one plays out. I'm going to start pretty high on this, and big surprise, Alex gives the white pumping small creatures things a high grade. But I think this one's in contention for one of the better white commons, and I'm going to give it a B-.
Yeah, I'm with you. This card's very good.
Sweet. All right, next up, we've got Lunar Veteran. So this is a single white mana for a 1/1, and it says, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. So it's a little bit of a soul warden, soul sister, kind of prosperous innkeeper for a recent comparison. But it's got disturbed for 1 and a white, so 2 mana. The disturb side is a flying creature. It's a 1/1, and it says whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, you gain a life. And it's got the disturb text of whenever this dies, you exile it.
This seems fine.
Yeah, I think it's pretty sweet. So,
yeah.
Again, I want to reiterate the value of a 1 mana creature when Coven is a thing, right? Getting the Coven train rolling early is quite valuable. And the fact that this, enables your Coven, gets in for a few points of damage, and then, maybe either blocks, trades off in a big attack, or just gets eaten in a big attack that you make, and then comes back as a 1/1 flyer, is really valuable for a lot of reasons, especially when you're going wide, and there's a lot of payoffs for going wide. Aside from the Coven, synergies, just the synergy of I'm putting mass pump spells in my deck, that makes you want 1 mana, 1/1 creatures a lot more, right? And then the backside's also just a nice thing to put counters on or pump up. So I actually really like this card. I'm going to give this one a C+.
Yeah, all right, I'm in for C+ on this. This seems sweet. Yeah, I guess it's kind of hard for me to... can I really grade a disturbed creature lower than a C+?
The other thing about the card is think about the times with Prosperous Innkeeper where you're just aside from life gain synergy, it's just okay, they're up 5 life and it's tough in the race here, just that coming down on 1 and
yeah.
I just had a podcast episode where I was talking about if you started with a emblem that said every time I cast a spell I gain a life, that's really, really powerful, and that's not quite that, but it's close. So it's a lot for your 1 mana card.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
right,
people
next?
are giving it Doom Traveler, ish.
Yeah, a little bit
I agree.
like that, for sure.
We got it's Gustwalker, Candlegrove Witch, 1 and a white for a 2/2 human warlock with Coven. It gains at the beginning of combat. If you have the Coven trigger, it gains flying until end of turn.
Yeah. So this isn't bad.
This is good.
So one of the questions that as Coven was being previewed was, how easy is it to turn on Coven, right? How likely are we going to be able to enable our Coven cards? And now that we've seen the full set, I think it's actually going to be really easy. There's a lot of cards that make multiple bodies. There's a lot of cards that are naturally, 0 power to help you get to that number. And so if it was hard, I wouldn't like this card very much. But I think you're not going to have to do a lot of work. And I think this card is going to be flying a good percentage of the time. So I think it's a solid C.
Yeah, I like C. I could see this pushing up to C+, to be honest.
Yeah, I can see that as well.
Okay.
It's a really good cheap thing to put counters on or buff in some way too. So that's another little bonus. All right, next up we've got Cathar Commandos. This is 1 and a white for a 3/1 flash. A little weird. It's got a 1 mana ability. It says sacrifice this card, destroy target artifact or enchantment.
Hello, best of one.
Yeah, exactly what you were saying before.
Yeah, I think with disturb stuff floating around, I don't know if there's like tokeny stuff otherwise. I guess green white does. Like 2 mana 3/1 isn't gonna be that great, I don't think. Like these range from Hobgoblin Captain being great to what, like I don't think this is great, but giving yourself the opportunity to just have a fine to whatever body, but then main deck blow up an artifact or an enchantment, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah, I think that vanilla white 3/1 is not a card you like very much because it just trades with everything. It's not. It reads like an aggressive card, but it's not a good aggressive card because good aggressive cards don't trade with the early creatures. This always trades with the early creatures, right? Mm-hmm. But with, a little bit of value on it. Flash in like a green white or a white red deck with like werewolves, daybound, nightbound stuff that is a little bit of synergy too. I don't think it's a fantastic card, but I'm gonna give it a solid C.
Yeah, I'm gonna go C-, but maybe C is right.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I can see it being lower as well.
What's next here?
All right. Flare of Faith. This is 1 and a white for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If it's a human, instead it gets +3/+3 and gains indestructible until end of turn.
It's interesting. You'd like this a lot more if it were 1 mana, huh? Like.
Yeah,
the difference between 1 and 2 mana combat tricks is large. It is not.
Dare I say it's night and day?
Oh, yeah. All right. That's the first one there. That's the first one.
I think this is fine.
It's fine. This feels like a D+ to me.
Yeah, deep. I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right. What's up next?
Thraben Exorcism. 1 and a white for an instant. Exile target spirit, creature with disturb, or enchantment.
Yeah, so we actually saw a card very, very similar to this in original Innistrad. It just didn't have the disturb text on it. And it was basically, sideboard card filler. Yeah. I think that's going to be the same thing. I don't think you want to main deck this. I don't think
you can main deck this. I don't think there's enough disturb or spirits.
Just imagine facing a red-green werewolf deck with this.
Right, exactly.
You're just not going to be happy about that.
Yeah, no.
All right, next up, we got Unruly Mobs. This is 1 and a white for a 1/1. Another OG original card. Whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Unruly Mob. They're trying to make it happen yet again, Ethan. They're trying to make it.
Yeah, so white black does have the theme, and I don't really think it wasn't. I mean, it had the theme in original Innistrad as well, where this card was first printed. It's hard. Like this card can range from like, oh snap, it gets out of control to like, holy cow, that's an embarrassing card. So I think all told, it's probably like a C-.
Every time they printed this card, there's like these mechanics where it's like, oh, maybe because this time, like
right.
With Kaladesh, it's like we got Fabricate. There is Decay. I will give this card the benefit.
Okay.
Decay might make it better. I'm still gonna start like at like a C- because until this card proves me wrong, I'm gonna start a little bit lower.
Next up is Celestis Sanctifier. 2 and a white for a 3/2. If it's neither day nor night, it becomes day as Celestis Sanctifier enters the battlefield. And when day and night flips, you can look at the top card of your library, put one of them into your graveyard. So you get a little, whatever, choice of your draw step a little bit.
Super filler.
Yeah, C-.
C-. I would even put it in a D+. I just don't think you're going to want this card in your deck very much.
Yeah, and 3 mana 3/2s are not great.
Yeah, exactly. All right, next up we've got Ritual Guardian. So this is 2 and a white for a 3/2 Coven. At the beginning of your combat, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, this gains lifelink until end of turn. It's very similar to the last card we looked at. I think it's a little bit better. I think on average, lifelink is better than the ability on the other thing. Lifelink a percentage of the time. Still not a high pick though. I think it's C- level card.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep.
Look at us flying through here. Sun Gold Barrage, 2 and a white for an instant. Destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater. Haven't done the stats yet on this. Be interesting, like with just creatures straight up and backsides of werewolves, etc. But I imagine, I don't know. Do you want to main deck this?
My gut says yes. I'm actually not a fan of these kind of effects usually, like the Smite the Monstrous. I think they're a little bit overplayed generally, even when people, even when there's reasons in a format to do so, I think people play them a little bit more often than they should. But I think this one being 3 mana, werewolves being a thing, so like you're going to get, your opponent's creatures are going to get 4 toughness more often than they normally would, and white having a pump my team, a lot of cards that pump up small creatures, and you'll find a target there too. I think you're okay to main deck a copy of this.
Aren't
don't.
there some matchups
great,
where this
but...
is just dead?
Yes, I wouldn't advise doing it. I guess I would say it is a fine 23rd card if you need it, though. So
Yeah.
this is like a D plus probably.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go sideboard on this, I think.
Yep, fair enough. All right, next up we got Morning Patrol. It says 2 and a white for a 2/3 vigilance, disturb, 4 mana, and the disturb side is a 2/1 flying vigilance.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, I think it's solid. I think if you can pump up the 2/3, like put 1 counter on it, that becomes a much more formidable body, and then turns into a 2/1 flyer. So not bad at all.
I'd say a C plus here.
I think I'm gonna go C. I think the front side's a little. No, you know what?
It's just so hard to argue.
Yeah.
Like it's so hard to grade these cards lower because they're just pretty
totally.
straight up 2-for-1s.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't want to come too low on this one. So yeah, I agree with the C plus.
Clarion Cathars is 3 and a white for a 3/3 human knight. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human creature token.
Solid. Really solid.
So we saw this is a functional reprint from Ikoria, right?
Yep.
The day mentor, the 4 mana 3/3 makes a 1/1. So aces the vanilla test in terms of 4/4 of stats for 4 mana. And relevant, making 2 human types is relevant, 2 different powered stuff is relevant. This is good.
Yep, solid card with some small synergies. So I like it. I'd probably give it a C plus.
Yeah, C plus for me as well.
Sweet. Next up, we've got Gavin Silversmith. This is 4 mana.
No. I was just saying ooh. I'm excited to talk about it.
I thought I missed something. So we've got Gavin Silversmith, and it's a 2/3 for 4 mana. Enters the battlefield. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to 2 target creatures. 2 different ones. Each of up to 2 target creatures. Sorry, to clarify.
So it's Boswor's Acolyte without lifelink.
Yeah, powerful.
Without +1/+1 counters, but there's Coven synergies. Without +1/+1 counter synergies, but we have Coven synergies. I have to imagine we're looking at the best white common here.
Basri's Acolyte also could it put it on itself?
No,
and this one can, right? So that's,
this one. Oh, it can.
Yeah. So
this card is even better than that. I'll trade lifelink for that every day.
Yeah. So it's a little, it's a trade-off, right? Yeah, I like it. What do you want? B- for this?
I think it's a B-. Yeah.
I do think losing lifelink is a pretty big knock, but it's still a powerful card.
But the fact that it can target it, the fact that it's base, this is a 4 mana 3/4.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge, I think.
Yeah, like I said, it is a trade-off, but I am sad personally to lose lifelink.
Yes, lifelink is overpowered. Search Party Captain is up next. I've already got it locked and loaded. I've got the sound clip of Michael Scott from the Booze Cruise saying, "I'm your party captain too."
That's awesome. That's so good.
Just keyed up for this card. So good. So 3 and a white for a 2/2 human soldier. It costs 1 less to cast for each creature you attacked with this turn. Oh, and when it enters the battlefield, you draw a card.
Yeah, I like this direction.
Another white cantripping creature.
Yeah, I like the direction White's going with these small white creatures that cantrip. So I think this is almost always going to be 3 mana 2/2. I think it's not going to be that hard. And when it's not, it probably means the board's a little bit stalled, and you're okay playing this as
a 4 mana 2/2.
A 4 mana card, right?
Nimble Obstructionist, blue gets 4 mana 2/2s draw a card. Why is White getting this with a cost reduction?
So this card has a pretty high floor, and then imagine the ceilings where you do you cast this for 1 mana sometimes, 2 mana. I mean that's not going to happen all the time, but it's really absurd when that happens. It's
not Nimble Obstructionist. I don't want people to yell at me. It's some card. Someone find what I'm talking about here with this 4 mana 2/2 draw card. But anyway, this is great. This card's great.
Yeah.
I think C plus for me. I don't know.
I'm gonna give this one a B-.
You're going B-? All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's pretty darn good.
You know what? I respect it, Alex. I like your
sweet.
optimism. All right. Last white common here is.
Yeah, Soul Guy Griff. We've got 5 mana, 4 and a white for a 3/4 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, you exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard.
Okay, so can snag a flash. That is going to be relevant in this format. Snagging a flashback spell, or a disturb card. That's going to feel bad. Even just exiling whatever. There's other ways to get stuff out of graveyards. Being a 3/4 is a lot different than it being a 3/3. I still think this is probably just a C.
Yeah, I think it's. I'd probably go a little bit lower just because I think that you'll play one of these. I don't think it's we always talk about the 5 mana slot being, you really need to be picky about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're gonna play this card some percentage of the time, but it'll be like, okay, I wield this card. I guess I'll put it in my deck. So I think that's about a C- card.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Sweet.
First uncommon here is Chaplain of Alms. Single white for a 1/1 human cleric with first strike. It has ward 1. And it also has Disturb for 3 and a white. So the Disturb side is a 2/1 with flying and first strike, and each creature you control has ward 1.
Okay.
Again, like, it's hard. This might even be pushing into B- territory. Like, white wants to be super aggressive at 1 man. Like, Tundra Wolves with ward 1. Hello. Adding a little Coven stuff, like getting those. It's not seeming hard to get 1 power creatures, though, so far, I will say, for Coven.
Right.
But this does do that. And then 4 mana for a 2/1 flying first strike. Each creature has ward 1. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before. I'm going to keep saying it. This gets the Coven train rolling, and then it comes back with a vengeance, you know? It's just a good great creature on the backside, too. I'm
gonna go C+ to start, but I could see this pushing into B- territory.
I agree. Yeah, even throw a counter on the front side even it becomes 2/2 first.
Hello, yeah.
Not bad at all. All right, we've got Ritual of Hope. So this is 1 and a white for an instant. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn, but if you have Coven, they get +2/+1, which is a pretty big difference.
Because we usually see this effect +1/+1 for 1 or 2 mana.
Yes.
And we usually see the +2/+1 effect for 4 mana.
Right.
I'm usually not an Inspired Charge fan, but I do think Go Wide looks pretty, and white looks very aggressive.
Yep.
And I think this is gonna be good in your white decks.
You're already incentivized to put a bunch of cheap creatures in your deck, in your white decks. You're already incentivized to put 1s and 2s and 3s. This is notably different than Inspired Charge, I think, because there are turns where, it's easy to think, oh, it doesn't matter if I get a discount on my Inspired Charge because it's going to be the last spell I cast a lot of the time. But there's also going to be turns where it's like, well, I'm a bit short on mana and I would like to tap that thing and get in for lethal. Or I would like to, move my equipment and then cast this as well. So don't discount the mana discount. I like this card quite a bit. I'm going to give it a C+.
Yeah, I think I'm in for C+ as well. And like I said, I don't usually go super high on these effects. Sunset Revelry, 1 and a white for a sorcery. If an opponent has more life than you, you gain 4 life. If an opponent controls more creatures than you, create 2/1/1 white human creature tokens. If an opponent has more cards in hand than you, draw a card.
Weird card. It's a timely reinforcements sort of for
I go thumbs down on this card.
This
is a constructed plant, I think.
I think so as well. Yeah, there's going to be times when your opponent. This reads like a pretty appealing card. So your opponents are going to put this card in their deck a lot of the time, I think. And there's going to be times when they just get all of these, and you're like, wow, that was ridiculous, right? But the times that it's just stuck in their hand, and or they cast it, and like, well, I guess they'll gain 4 life or whatever. I think outweigh that. So I think I'm going to start this as a F, but I'm willing to come up on it if
I think it's a good sideboard card.
Sure, sideboard.
I don't think it's an F. Like you definitely find match if you're playing best of 3 and you're on the draw against an aggressive deck, even if you're a white aggressive deck, bring this in.
Yeah, it is powerful enough that I don't think I should be giving it an F. I'm just saying, like, most of the time you shouldn't main deck it.
I agree. I think you're really hoping to not main deck this, unless there is, and maybe there is some sort of white controlling deck that will be discovered, or maybe white black is a little bit more grindy and whatever.
Yeah,
and
white blue, white blue isn't going to be that beat down, I don't think. So.
Yeah.
All right, next up we've got Ambitious Farmhands. This is 1 and a white for a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic plains, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So not bad. Just 2 mana creature draws you a land, and then Coven, 3 mana, 1 white. If you have Coven, you can transform it. It turns into a 3/3 lifelink on the backside.
This card's great.
Cool. Yeah, it's a really cool card. Little value card, turns into a nice body. Kind of cool. Well, I was gonna say it helps you enable Coven because you can be a 1 or a 3/3, but you're gonna have Coven. Yeah. I mean, it does matter after though. Like you might, it's possible to lose Coven, but really great card. I want to give this like a B-.
Yeah, I was gonna say even B. Honestly,
Sweet. I'm down for B.
This card seems super strong.
Love it.
Beloved Beggar. I'm curious what you think about this card. 1 and a white for an 0/4 human peasant. That's it. And then it has Disturb for 4 white. You can cast from your graveyard as a 4/4 flying vigilance.
Yeah, so I think this is look fine on rate, just like an 0/4, and then you cast a 6/6 Sarah Angel later, or sorry, 6 mana Sarah Angel later. Um, but I think this is a card that you want to be doing something with the body or the 0/4. Either you're discarding it with that blue white gold flashback card, or you're sacrificing it in black white. I would not that I wouldn't put this card in my deck pretty much always. It's just that you want to prioritize things that either help it get into the graveyard somehow. Because 0/4 doesn't naturally die that easily.
As far as I can tell so far, all and the non-red white decks are interested in this, and even red white is going to be interested in it sometimes for coven purposes. But like blue white definitely wants it for the disturb stuff. Black white definitely wants it as a bot, like sack fodder or whatever, and green white getting yourself, you get a 0 thing for coven or a 4-power thing for coven, and those are going to be the tougher ones to get.
Yeah,
I'm kind of in on this. I think even aggressive coven decks are not going to be mad about this card.
Yep, I agree. I think its rate is good enough that even if you are like an aggressive deck, I often caution about like putting too many cards in your aggressive deck that don't contribute to that plan. I think this card's still probably good enough and will have applications that you should be playing most of the time. So I don't know. What do you want to give it? A B minus?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think this is a pull into white. I want to give it a B minus.
Right. Also, just one thing I want to mention. Chat. A few people have mentioned in chat. The whole. I think it's a bit of a not. I don't want to say a fallacy, but when you have a mechanic like Coven that rewards you for having a lot of creatures or doing a good thing that you want to already be doing, like playing a lot of creatures, there's a tendency to go, well, if I already have these creatures, aren't I already winning? Aren't I already in a good position? And there's some merit to that, but a mechanic like Coven or Battalion or anything that helps you snowball, the purpose is to take you from a parity position to a winning position, right? It enables you to kind of turn the corner, where it's like if you didn't have cards of that mechanic that incentivize you to do that thing, you just be like playing a normal game of Magic. But when you turn on Coven, helps you push over, turn that corner. So I don't think you should be looking at it as I'm probably winning already if I have these creatures on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Little mini rant over. Anyways, let's go to borrowed time.
I don't even think that counts as a rant. That was just good, clean information.
Thanks, Ethan.
Yeah.
Look, we're getting better at this, right?
Yeah.
It only took us a few years. Borrowed time, 2 and a white, enchantment, uncommon. When borrowed time enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until borrowed time leaves the battlefield. So it's a banishing light, Oblivion Ring style card. It's the updated text is more of a banishing light. Solid card. I think it's a little bit worse than a normal just kill that black removal spell, because this can get destroyed. Like you said, there's a lot of incidental artifact enchantment removal in the set, but it's still solid. I personally tend to rate these cards a little bit lower than most people for the reason that there's a few things that do blow it out over time. But if you're an aggressive white deck, you're not going to give your opponent that much time to do that, and this is just going to be a really solid card. So I'm going to start this at a B.
That's lower than people rate it? What do people rate this card?
I don't know. People I think people,
yeah.
I guess in the draft, they'll first pick it very often, but I'm not as likely to first pick a card like this.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean,
yeah.
Well, you're just so lucky that you always get to first pick B pluses or higher. That must be nice.
Well, of course. I've got streamer luck.
That's right. Oh yeah, streamer luck. I pay my arena fees.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Next up is Cathar's Call, which is 2 and a white for an enchantment aura. Enchanted creature has vigilance, and at the beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 white human creature token.
Not so into it.
Yeah, I'm out on this.
Yeah, so you often want your auras to have immediate impact, so that if they get destroyed, after your opponent untaps and kills them, or something happens to them in a very soon after you cast it, you've already got a little bit of value. You'll get the 1/1 always, or almost always, but you have to get 3 tokens out of this before you're really happy with it. So I think this is just not a card. You can imagine situations where sacking stuff for synergy, but
why is the thing, the art, is it on a peg? It's on a flying thing and it doesn't get flying.
I would bet this had flying at some point.
Yeah.
And they changed it to vigilance because they're like, no, this is a little too good.
I think flying would be good. Anyway, I don't think this card's very good. I'm going to give it a D.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, next up we've got Gavin Dawnguard. This is 1 white for a 3/3 human soldier. It's got ward 1. If it's neither night nor day, it becomes night it becomes day as Gavin Dawnguard enters the battlefield. Whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with mana value 3 or less from among them. Put them into your hand. The rest on the bottom.
That's strong.
Yeah, really strong. Just 3 mana 3/3 ward 1. Not a bad rate. And then you've got the whole your red white decks that might care about day turn time, night turn today or whatever. But even if you don't necessarily care about that, it just naturally drawing you cards over the course of the game is really, really strong. I think this is like a B level card.
Yeah, I kind of want to go B plus.
Sure. Yeah, I'm gonna stay with B, but yeah.
Next is Loyal Griff. 2 and a white for a 2/2 hippogriff. Flash, flying. When it ETBs, you may return another creature you control to its owner's hand. I'm a big fan of this card.
Yeah, this is a really flexible card. Powerful and flexible, right? Like, one of the obvious use cases, of course, is just like saving your creature from a removal spell or a combat that's going to go wrong because of a trick. But just like resetting it into the battlefield effect, being a flash creature with daybound, nightbound. But we mentioned those synergies before. It's got a lot of really little things going on that are good. I really like this card. I would also give it, probably a B minus.
Yeah, I kind of want to go B. It's nice that it you get to pass if you're white, green, white, red, get to pass up your werewolves, whatever. You can rebuy your disturb creatures, right? You flipped your disturb stuff, rebuy them, and then replay them on the front side. Save a thing from removal, whatever. This card is, I like this card a lot.
Yeah, sweet. All right, next up we've got Bereaved Soul. This is a 3 mana 2/1. All right. When another creature you control dies, transform Bereaved Soul, and it turns into Dauntless Avenger. It's a 3/2, and it says when it attacks, return target creature with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped and attacking.
This is fine.
Yeah, it's the body of the front side's a little weak. The backside isn't like particularly amazing. It's going to trade off almost always the first time, so you'll get a little bit of like quote unquote value, but it's a little hard to set up. I think it's just fine. I'd probably give this a C.
Yeah, I think C's fine. I could even see it being a little weaker.
Yeah, I agree.
Next up we have spreadsheet keeps auto wanting this to be a C plus. It's not. Google Sheets. Next up is Dual Craft Trainer. 3 and a white for a 3/3 human soldier with first strike and Coven. At the beginning of combat on your turn, it gains double strike.
Yeah, pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean 4 minutes 3/3 first strike is pretty.
Actually, target creature gains double strike.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
You a little better.
Oh, that's
a little better.
I mean, already I think a 4/4 or a 4 mana 3/3 first strike is tough to interact with in combat.
Yes, it comes down. It's gonna block most things that are attacking you at that point in the game, and then kind of turns around and hits you back for a lot. So
there's a possibility that this comes like. You go whatever. You have a 1 power thing, and then on 2 or 3, you have a 2 power thing, and then this just comes down, and boom, your 2 power thing is a double striker.
Yep, and there's counters flying around, making anytime you have keywords, counters get a little bit better. So yeah, I think it's a really solid card. I'd probably give it a C plus here.
I think
maybe a B minus.
I'm going B minus. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go B minus.
All right.
All right, and last uncommon here, we've got Odrick's Outriders. His 3 mana for a 2/4.
No, 4 mana.
Oh, sorry, 4 mana. Yeah, 3 and a white. 4 mana for a 2/4. Whenever Odrick's Outrider or another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control.
Yeah, this is a very Ethan card here.
This is a tough card to deal with. Like, even if you kill this right away, it's going to get a little bit of value.
Yeah.
And it's not that easy to kill. It's 4 toughness, right? So, like, not all the red removal is going to kill it. You're at that point in the game, you're not necessarily going to have a creature that a fight spell is going to kill it with. And then if this thing survives, like, you can really engineer some combat situations where even if you don't have like a great attack on its face value, you go, okay, 2 of these creatures will trade. My other creatures grow really big. This is a really good card. I wonder. It's a little bit tough. We've seen a lot of really good 4 mana cards in white at both common and uncommon. So it's going to be interesting to see where the cream of the crop, lies. This is another great card though. So I think I'd give this a B.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's interesting. I was also noticing this in red, and maybe it's true for a lot of colors, that like a lot of, as you move up the higher mana value, it does feel like, there's maybe a lot of 4-drops or something, but each of them sort of slot into, like, different decks are going to want different ones. Like, this is obviously an intrinsically powerful card. I think it will be at its best in black-white. Mm-hmm. And, the double striker maybe is better. First strike, double striker, better in green, white, etc. But yeah, I like solid B here for Odrick's Outrider. Our first rare here is Curse of Silence. Single white for an enchantment or a curse. Curses are back. Enchant player. As Curse of Silence enters the battlefield, choose a card name. Spells with the chosen name enchanted player casts cost 2 more to cast. Whenever enchanted player casts a spell with the chosen name, you may sacrifice Curse of Silence. If you do, draw a card. No. This is an F.
Not for us. Nope. We can just move on.
This is for those filthy 60 card deck players.
Yeah. All right. We move on to Faithful Absent. This is 1 in a white for an instant. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Its controller investigates. So they created a clue with 2 sack, draw a card.
Yeah, like instant speed. What was it? Declaration and Stone.
Yeah.
This is worse in limited than it is in constructed. Still good, hyper,
but not bad. Right?
It's not bad, but like. So here's a question for you: do you like the O-ring effect, the enchant, like the 2 and a white exile thing until they blow up the thing?
Yeah.
Do you think this is better or worse than that?
I think this is better. By not by a ton, but better because a lot of the value of an instant speed removal spell is being able to like leverage it in combat to get a 2 for 1 somehow, right? Either on like a awkward block or they go for a trick or whatever it is. So instant really really bumps that up for me. And yes, they're going to get their card back eventually. But if you're playing a white aggressive deck, that is way less of a cost because they just won't have the time. I think that if you haven't played with Declaration in Stone, this card might look like too much of a downside basically, but Declaration in Stone at instant speed, I'm saying Declaration in Stone, that was a little bit of a different card exiled, but a similar effect plus instant speed. I think this is still a pretty good card. I don't think you're going to be first picking it. It's not like a murder kind of style card, but I'm pretty happy to play this and pick it somewhere 3rd to 5th range probably.
Yeah, I think it's like a B.
Yep.
Everyone is saying, we've got a lot of folks saying AA minus in chat. Y'all gotta chill on like removal and understand what a bomb is. Like that's my feeling. Like A's need to be reserved for cards that break the game. This doesn't break the game. This is just and it's like instant speed is upside, but you're 2 for 1ing yourself.
Yeah, I think this will. Somebody in chat multiplied points out that I think because this card is going to be pretty good constructed, ostensibly, it's going to be a little bit overrated. It's like we're saying. I want to temper expectations, kind of on both sides. Actually,
yeah, right.
Right. It's really interesting because I think there's some people who are like, this is I don't want to play this. This is card disadvantage, basically, right? Where it's like I kill their thing. They're going to get their card back eventually, and like it just looks really bad. But then there's the other side where it's like, oh yeah, it's an awesome card, right? It does land somewhere in the middle. You just have to kind of temper your expectations with how good this card is.
Yep. Intrepid Adversary is next. 1 and a white for a 3/1 with lifelink. This is a part of a cycle, right? This is when it enters the battlefield, you can pay 1 and a white any number of times. When you pay this cost 1 or more times, put that many Valor counters on Intrepid Adversary. Creatures you control get +1/+1 for each Valor counter on Intrepid Adversary.
Ooh-wee. Wow.
So at its base, it's a 2-mana 3/1 with lifelink.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. Maybe great if we think that lifelink is busted. If you probably the most common thing to do would be to pay 2 white, and this will be a lord for like this will be an anthem effect for your team, right? So it'll be a 4/2 itself, and then we'll also give everything else +1/+1.
There's also a fair number of things. We've seen a few already. I think there's 1 or 2 more at rare, which we're not going to come up. But there are things that return these cheap creatures, in black too. So it's like return.
You drop it and then play the griff that returns something, and then play it again play it on turn 6 as a 5/3 that's giving your team +2/+2.
Yeah, that too. Or if they kill this, you can like bring back a 2 CMC creature, 2 mana value creature.
Yeah, sure.
And this isn't a cast trigger; it's a when it enters the battlefield trigger, so you can still pay that cost, right? So this is just, it's good on the front, like the base rate of 3/1. I don't think you're going to play it that often as that. You're often going to play your other 2-drop first. But the flexibility of this card is fantastic. I think this card's in A. Yeah,
I'm going to go A-, but I agree. You're taking this out of basically every pack you see it in.
Another really good 2-drop here, but Sun Gold Sentinel. This is 2 mana for a 3/2. Whenever Sun Gold Sentinel enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard that has Coven, 2 mana, choose a color. Sungold Sentinel gains hexproof from that color until end of turn, and can't be blocked by creatures of that color this turn. Activate this, because it's got the Covenant text. So it's sort of protection, hexproof, and can't be blocked by certain colors. So it's like a 3/2, 4/2, good stats. A little bit of graveyard hate, a little bit of nice incidental upside, and got that protection effect.
Yeah, it's probably all like a solid B.
Yeah, give it a solid B.
Because when you play this on turn 2, you're not getting this effect.
But you're happy with the 3.
But you're happy with the 2 mana 3/2, and then later in the game, it's like has protection, unblockable potential from like half your opponent's deck or whatever.
Totally.
Adeline Resplendent Cathar is up next. 1 white for a star 4 legendary human knight with vigilance. Its power is equal to the number of creatures you control, so it'll at its base be a 1/4. Whenever you attack for each opponent, create a 1/1 white human creature token that's tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker they control.
Yeah, another really solid card, right? Like, it's going to start snowballing.
On the play, just imagine going 2-drop into this, and now your 2-drop makes a 1/1. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, it's also...
That is hard. That's just... You're just going to concede. Like, it's just like, I don't know what the heck to do. Now, this is also a 3-mana 3/4 with vigilance.
Yeah, and then the other thing, too, is, like, a lot of creatures with attack triggers, they often trade pretty easily. A 4 toughness creature doesn't trade that easily,
Well,
so,
it's just when you attack, you don't have to attack with this. Like,
oh yeah, wow! I didn't even notice that. That's amazing. Yeah, this is an A.
This card's stupid. I am gonna be so mad about this card.
Well, I would say get used to it, Ethan.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, next up we got Brutal Cathar. This is 2 and a white for a 2/2. It's a werewolf. It's a white werewolf, interestingly. It's got Daybound, and it says when this creature enters the battlefield or transforms into Brutal Cathar, exile target creature and opponent controls until this creature leaves the battlefield. It transforms into a 3/3 first striker with Nightbound, ward, pay 3 life. Okay, so it's baseline. It's a Fairgrounds Warden,
Fiend Hunter, whatever, yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. Comes in, exiles one of their things. A little bit fragile, but that's okay. And then if you can keep the day-night cycle going, you just keep exiling things.
Yeah. And the night side protects it because it becomes a 3 toughness is going to be a little bit more relevant. Ward, pay the 3 life. That's nice too for white decks. Yeah, I like the. I don't know. I mean, it's fragile, and like that's a lot of setup to think about it. Flipping back. Like, if you're controlling the game that hard, you're probably like. I don't mean to use like you're already winning.
No. I think it's good to say that though in that position. I think it's totally valid in that position.
Yeah.
Right?
So.
The highs are highs, the lows are medium still. They're good still. They still have to cast their removal spell on this thing. So because to average that out, the high highs and the pretty good mediums, I think this is still like an A-.
Oh, that is so wild to me. I think I would take the Oblivion Ring over this.
Interesting. I think adding power to the board is so you're getting it. It's much more fragile, right?
It's much more fragile.
The kind of
because you can't it is a creature, but you don't really want to put this in combat, so it's effectively an enchantment a lot of the time.
But the times you do, it's great, right? The times you can, especially when it's a 3/3 first strike.
But I think I want my floor higher here in terms of like I get to just count this as a removal spell and get the thing dead. I don't know. I think this is this does not seem bomb status to me.
I think this is one that you're going to be pretty upset to play against.
I mean, I guess because I don't draft removal ever, but like
you can also like rebuy it eventually. We've seen a lot of stuff rebuys and more stuff in the future. We'll see. I think this card's really good. I stand by the A-.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a B.
All right, fair enough. All right, what's up next?
Sigarda's Splendor, 2 white for an enchantment. This card is it says Sigarda's Splendor enters the battlefield. Note your life total. At the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card if your life total is greater than or equal to the last noted life total for Sigarda's Splendor. Then note your life total. Whenever you cast a white spell, you gain 1 life.
Yeah, they accidentally put a card from Conspiracy, and the card files got swapped. And we ended up with this weird card in the set. It's actually like... So this is going to be weird. Like, my gut says it's good. Like, we see a lot of these, like, 4 mana, I draw some cards, weird downside, a lot of text, but end up being pretty good. Like, Midnight Oil is a good example. There's been a few other examples I can think of.
This is a really sweet build around.
Yeah, so you want some amount of life gain, for sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
and you want to be base white if you can, so you can actually enable the life gain. Really tough, because then the thing about this is that the aggressive white decks just like don't really want to prioritize this, right? No. Like you're going to want to take a good rate creature over this. Mm-hmm. And so like you'll still play it sometimes, but I think mostly this is for slower white decks, which I don't know if there's a lot of, and it's a bit finicky. This is the one I'm like most unsure of. I want you to say it's good, but I can easily see this being just like not that great.
Folks are trying to compare this to Cosmos Elixir.
Right.
That's a tough question. I don't know, because in theory this might be easier. Cosmos Elixir was hard to draw off of consistently. Because like, if you play this in the mid game and your life total is lower than 20, right? It's not hard. You just need it to be higher than. I guess it only needs to be, because you re-note your life total, right? So let's say I play this on 15.
Mm-hmm. You can't just turtle up. You have to like keep gaining life.
You gotta keep gaining life, because once you get to
whatever the last one was,
if I stay 15, reset. Well, if I stay at 15, I still draw cards.
But equal to. Sorry, yeah. Equal. My bad. Yeah, you're right. So you can just turtle up.
Whenever you cast a white spell, you gain 1 life. You got to be pretty heavy white.
So you've got to be like heavy-ish white. So
this is probably just a bad card.
Want to take that stance, babe?
I mean, I will try it out because I like finicky turtle up cards. Like I'll pack one, pick one, this, and try and build around it. But I think if folks are doing 25 or less drafts of a format, as most people do, I would say, I think you're probably just better off ignoring this card.
We'll come around on this card when we realize or if we realize it's good, But I think I agree, for the sake of responsibility, I'm going to start this on a lower grade. But we'll note that I think this could be good by the end of the format. We realize it's pretty good. So I'm going to start at like a D+ or whatever. But you're marking it.
I'm going like build around B, but like I'm just saying the same. Like
that's a better way to put it. Mark me down for that as well.
Okay.
I'll have what he's having. All right. Next up, we've got Sigardian Savior. So this is 3 white for a 3/3 flyer. When Sigardian Savior enters the battlefield, if you cast it, return up to 2 target creatures with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Yeah. This card is nuts.
Yeah, very good. It's a little bit underrated, for sure. Like just like 3 flyers sounds fantastic, but you're buying back a creature. You're almost always going to get 1, right? And sometimes you get 2. And it's just very good. So, yep.
I think this is like
A.
I think it's an A-, yeah.
I think A- as well.
It's just so much value, and like the world where like nothing has died, and this is just a 5-mana 3/3 flyer, that like probably means the things are going well for you.
And you're probably going to be able to hold it off, or play it as a 3/3 flyer if you just need that, So
last white card here is Enduring Angel. This is 2 triple white for a 3/3 angel with flying and double strike, and you have hexproof. And if your life total would be reduced to 0 or less, instead transform Enduring Angel and your life total becomes 3. Then if Enduring Angel didn't transform this way, you lose the game. Excuse me?
So that's just to prevent you from cloning this a bunch of times. Okay. Your clones can't transform and it gets really, really annoying. All right. So the front side is just like flying, double strike, 3/3 flyer for 5. You have hexproof. And then if you're going to lose the game, you don't.
You don't. And then so your life total is 3. You flip it to Angelic Enforcer, which is a star flyer. You have hexproof. Its power and toughness are each equal to your life total. And whenever it attacks, double your life total.
Right. So it's going to, you've got that weird window where it's like, they put you to 0 or, under 0. You get a 3 and then you get to untap, right? So you get first crack at being alive, basically. Right.
You attack with this and you go to 6 at least.
Yeah. And depending on the board state, they might have surmounted a board that's like, okay, you go to 6, I don't care. You had to attack your creature. That's whatever. Who really cares? But there's going to be a lot of times when it's like, we're kind of even on board state. I can still make decent blocks. And if this attacks twice, like, I just buy myself so much time. And not even buying myself time. You're going to be dead very soon.
This has to be an A.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. I agree with that. And we actually have...
we have one more. I'm sorry.
Yeah, one more white card. So we got Vanquish the Horde. 6 white for a sorcery. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield. Destroy all creatures. So it's kind of Blasphemous Act if you play with that card from original Innistrad. It's actually a very, very similar card. So I'm going to give my whole spiel about Wraths, where it's like if your whole deck is focused on putting creatures in the battlefield, you generally don't want to be, drafting a Wrath in pack 3 or whatever. If you see it early, you can maybe bias towards a slower white deck. It might turn out that slow white decks aren't very good in the format, so that's something to think about. But as far as Wraths go, this is a pretty good one. You're going to get this for 3 mana a lot of the time, and you're going to get the first crack at playing something afterwards. So, if you want a Wrath, it's a good Wrath, but I generally wouldn't first pick it.
I think so too, yeah. I wonder where that mentality shifted at some point. There was a time
for sure, yeah,
where even in Cube you'd be like, yeah, even if you're white weenie, play Day of Judgment or play Wrath of God. That's not we just don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I think part of that's just the creatures have gotten better where you can afford to you don't have to be like, okay, this is just a rawly powerful card and I want raw power in my deck. The cheap creatures are just rawly powerful. You don't have to sacrifice a card. You don't have to put a card in your deck that's anti-synergistic with what you're doing in order to just jam raw power in, basically.
This is also so you said the thing this is gonna cost 3 a lot of the time. There's also gonna be times where your opponent just plays 2 things. The thing about a Wrath is you don't want to affect the board because you don't if you have this if you have a Wrath in your opening hand, you don't want to affect the board because you have that. Every creature you play before you Wrath makes your Wrath worse because it's less of a card advantage thing for you. You can't do this is too expensive. There is this weird threshold of your opponent just goes 2-drop, 3-drop, and you're like, okay, but can you wait a few more turns before I
yeah.
Can you just relax? Or it's kind of hard. I don't know. I especially with how aggressive white looks, I'm pretty out on this personally.
Yeah, I would start as a build. I don't even know if I want to give it a build around synergy B because it's a powerful card in the decks that want it, but not a lot of decks are going to want it.
But it's not yet. I don't even feel like I'm incentivized to do that when I have this. Yeah,
I feel like a lot of the pushback, just one final comment here. A lot of the pushback on the Wraths come from, I don't want to call them boomer players, but older players that are very used to Wraths being good. And not to say that they're not good. I don't want to say you're wrong. Wraths are bad. I just think it took me personally, I went through this too. This phase, I was like, oh, they're not as good as they used to be just because limited has changed, basically. Right? So I think if your baseline is oh, you can't rate a Wrath low, things have just changed a little bit, and I don't think it's bad to pass Wraths. By the end of call time, Doomscar wasn't, a first pick by any means.
It was Strixhaven, whatever that 2 triple white one Wrath was horrible. Both the white decks were so hyper aggressive, you couldn't play it. Yeah. All right, well, that's going to do it for white.